Hello everybody, this is Typom and welcome to the end of Off Meta. As you know, we've been testing out a bunch of weird and wacky teams over the past year, and now, before this program expires, it's time to find out which of the 16 teams competing today is the best and the most meta. Before we begin the competition today, let's go over the rules. 16 teams have been divided into 4 brackets. Each team within these brackets will compete to get the fastest time on Floor 12, Chamber 1 of the Spiral Abyss. The teams with the fastest times in each bracket will then move to Chamber 2, and then the last 2 standing teams will compete in a triple boss gauntlet. The first to complete the gauntlet will be crowned meta. Let's take a look and see which teams will be competing today. In bracket number 1, we have Burgeon Hu Tao, Support Kanich, Burnmelt Fremine, and Support Wanderer. Burnmelt Fremine has also been voted the fan favorite team from this bracket. Coming up in bracket number 2, we have DPS Aoife, Fischl Soup, Overload Eon-san, and DPS Hazo. Looks like the fans have also voted DPS Aoife the fan favorite team for this bracket. For bracket number 3, give it up for Burgeon Malwika, DPS Lanyan, DPS Shenhe, and DPS Kachina. Our Lantern Right Bird team with Lanyan is the fan favorite team for this bracket. And for our final bracket, here's the I Give Up team, DPS Shalonin, Hyper Sayu, and DPS Dahlia. And big surprise here, DPS Dahlia is the fan favorite team from this bracket. Now that we've overviewed everything, here's a quick disclaimer. All teams showcased today have been adapted as faithfully as possible from their original episode. Each team competing today has been run through the Spiral Abyss many times to get the fastest clears I could possibly achieve with my best artifact and weapons. This competition should not be taken seriously and is just for fun. Whew! Okay, with all that out of the way, I think it's about time we get started with this competition. Bracket number 1, you're up! Starting out in the bottom right, we have seed number 1, Burgeon Hu Tao, and in the top left, we have seed number 2, Support Kanich. Personally, I'm definitely rooting for Support Kanich here, as this team I'm showcasing was really fun to play in its original episode. Some people were also quite upset with me at not using Kanich with Pyro characters, but this team doesn't need it, trust me. It seems as of right now, both teams are moving at relatively the same pace, with Burgeon Hu Tao gaining a slight lead over Kanich's team right now. Let's fast forward a bit and see how this battle progresses. It seems our Kanich team has definitely slowed down, struggling to move to the final phase of Chamber 1. If Burgeon Hu Tao continues to hold, that team might be looking at a nice victory. It's a neck and neck race now between the two teams, but look at these shocking results. Burgeon Hu Tao ekes out the win against Support Kanich. Even if these clear times are, quite bad, Burgeon Hu Tao gets the win. For our final teams of bracket number 1, in the bottom right, we have seed number 3, Burnmelt Fremine, and in the top left, we have seed number 4, Support Wanderer. As a self-proclaimed number 1 Fremine main, we had to include a weird Fremine team in our competition today. It seems both teams are quite even as of right now, both dishing out some decent damage at the first wave of enemies. Let's hope they can keep up that momentum for the rest of this chamber. At this point, it seems Support Wanderer is starting to fall behind our Fremine team here. There's still time for Wanderer to play catch up though. We all know Fischl and Yelan are a pretty good sub-DPS combination, so let's not count this team out just yet. With Fremine's team knocking down the final enemy, it seems as though Wanderer is unable to play catch-up, leaving our Burnmelt team to take the victory against Support Wanderer. Sorry Wanderer, but it seems your support days might be numbered. And that's every team for bracket number 1. To everyone's shock, it seems Burgeon Hutao achieved the fastest time and will be moving on to the semifinals. Let's not waste any time now though and move on to bracket number 2. Alright bros, starting us off we got seed number 5, DPS Aoife in the top right, and in the bottom left we got seed number 6, Official Soup. The debut Officials team happened during Halloween, and I think the intro to that video scared people from actually watching it. Anyways, speaking of scary, Aoife's dishing out some crazy damage with the help of all his supports, hitting upwards of 40k on some shots, which is especially impressive considering he is still level 80. With all that damage Aoife's doing, he's taking a strong and early lead against Official Soup, but will the lead last? It looks like Aoife is going to be one of our strongest teams competing in the competition today, already dealing with the last load of enemies with ease while Official continues to lag behind. And would you look at that folks, DPS Aoife has already completed its chamber with an amazingly meta time that's within the 1 minute and 30 clear guidelines for the Spiral Abyss. Let's speed up until the end of Official's chamber here. And there we go, Official manages to get a clear under her belt. Continuing onward, we have seed number 7, Overload Eon-san in the bottom right, and DPS Hazel in the top left. Here's another fun fact, I made a lot of people so mad by saying Hazel was the worst Animo DPS, I got bullied into making this video on him. Regardless of his performance today, at least he's really fun to play. Speaking of Hazel, he's working on launching those enemies, while Eon-san is trying to her best to explode her enemies into pieces. Let's fast forward and see how they manage to fare. It seems Hazel has definitely kept the lead in his possession, and Eon-san is beginning to fall behind. That team is definitely a hard one to play in the Spiral Abyss. With a couple of final punches and kicks, DPS Hazel manages to take down his chamber in a decent amount of time, while Eon-san continues to struggle. Fast forwarding and moving on to the end of her chamber, it seems Eon-san will be receiving no rewards today for her performance in today's competition. Bracket number 2 is now completed with Aoife, the fan favorite team, moving forward onto the semifinals. Okay, bracket 3, let's see what you got in store for us. Flying right in, we've got seed number 10, DPS Lanyan, and seed number 9, Burgeon Mawika. Both teams performed very well in their original episode, so we're hoping that they can see the same success today. We are already seeing some very impressive numbers from both teams. 70k plunges from Lanyan and 37k Burgeons from Mawika. I will also say, having the shield on Lanyan is very nice considering how much the enemies in this chamber like to absolutely murder you. The self-damage from Burgeon is also difficult to deal with, but with the help from Nihito and Prototype Amber, it helps offset some of that damage. Let's now fast forward a bit to see how well both teams can keep up with this enemy swarm. It seems DPS Lanyan was able to get to the last enemy a bit faster than Mawika, putting her in the lead. The race is still close though, and it all comes down to beating this final enemy. And with a big final push, Lanyan manages to take the win over Burgeon Mawika, who is struggling to finish off their final enemy. Next up on the chopping block, it's seed number 11, DPS Shenhe, and seed number 12, DPS Kachina. I am personally rooting for the DPS Kachina team here, considering it was the debut team for Season 2 of Off Meta. I honestly wish I had C6 Kachina, but apparently wishing on both Mawika and Seatlolly's first banner wasn't enough. Anyway, both teams are very evenly matched as of right now, doing their best to take down the first set of enemies and gain a good enough time to advance to the semifinals. Let's move ahead now and see how both teams are progressing. DPS Shenna seems to be progressing a little bit faster than DPS Kachina. Let's see if she can attempt a comeback, because if she can't, Kachina will be left out in the cold. It all comes down to this, and it seems DPS Shenna had just enough power left to secure the faster time between the two teams. Quite the upset for me. I wanted you to win, Kachina. Bracket number 3 is now wrapped up with the fan favorite team of DPS Lanyan moving on. It's now time for the final bracket. Let's see who our last semi-finalist team will be. DJing into seed number 14, we have DPS Shalonen. And right beside her comes my most messed up team in seed number 13, the I Give Up team. Created specifically to kill that evil purple flower who haunts my dreams. I'm very interested to see if the team of randoms can manage to move up in the world, or if they'll be beat down by Shalonen. Speaking of Shalonen, she is surprisingly a very good DPS, hitting around 89k on her burst damage and around 30k on her normal attack hits. Very impressive in my opinion. On the other end of the stick, the I Give Up team seems to be struggling to gain consistent damage on the enemies. Let's now fast forward to a bit further into this battle. And would you look at that? It seems like Shalonen's DPS is too much, as she just completed her chamber with a pretty good time. This leaves the I Give Up team in a position where I honestly think it should, just give up, because it's getting painful to watch. You better start praying for forgiveness, as DPS Dolly is making a strong entrance as seed number 16, while Sayu rolls into her position of seed number 15 as her Hyper Bloom and Swirl driver. DPS Dolly is of course having a very strong start, as his supports carry him to do some decent charge attack damage, around 15k per hit. All this while Sayu is causing quite the mess of reactions all over the enemies. It will be interesting to see which team comes out on top, so let's fast forward into some more action. At this point in the battle, it seems DPS Dahlia has already gained a strong lead against Sayu. There's still a chance for her to catch up, but it seems like Sayu might be denied a chance to compete in the semi-finals. Speaking of the semi-finals, Dolly is working hard to clear out his chamber, and with a few final charge attacks, he achieves a very strong time. Well, it seems that poor Sayu is unable to compete with the strength of DPS Dahlia and his supports. Sorry, Sayu, looks like you gotta roll away to another competition. Bracket number 4 is now complete, with fan favorite DPS Dahlia achieving the fastest time, meaning we now know all of our semi-finalists. It'll be a heated competition from this point onwards, as all 4 teams clash together against each other to move on to the finals. Starting us off, we have bracket number 1's Virgin Hu Tao against bracket number 4's DPS Dahlia. I believe that DPS Dahlia will have a massive advantage against Hu Tao, as Dahlia can not only take advantage of freeze, but he also did achieve one of the fastest times from the last round. As Dahlia now begins to work on his second set of enemies, it seems Hu Tao is still lagging behind, still trying to find its footing while trying to kill the mechanical menaces from the first wave. It's going to be a massive uphill battle if Hu Tao wants to get back into this. Let's fast forward a bit. At this point, I think we all know who's going to be winning this, as Dahlia is now up against the final enemy set, as Virgin Hu Tao is very behind. It's only a matter of time now before Dahlia kills these enemies and becomes a finalist. And here we have it. Dahlia takes the win and secures a very modest time, while poor Hu Tao is stuck against a very difficult wave of enemies, causing her to gain a less than satisfactory time. Sorry, Hu Tao, you will not be moving on. It all comes down to this, a double Animo showdown with bracket number 2's DPS Aoife and bracket number 3's DPS Lanyan. Both teams were strong in the first round of this competition, but now it's time to see who gets to move on to the finals. Both teams seem to have a very strong start as well, dealing consistent and high damage, clearing out the first wave of enemies with ease. At this point, it's anyone's game. Let's fast forward a bit and see if both teams can keep each other on their toes. Looks like our veteran veterinarian has taken the lead, managing to take on the final wave of big robots before Lanyan manages to get to them. Things are definitely looking bleak for her now. And with a final solid rotation, DPS Aoife manages to take down the final wave of enemies, only 2 seconds slower than DPS Dahlia on the other side. It also looks like Lanyan was also too slow to make to the finals. Sorry, but it looks like this team will have to fly away and try again another day. It all comes down to this: DPS Aoife versus DPS Dahlia in the boss gauntlet. The team who clears this the fastest will be crowned meta. I'll let everything play out in full. Let's begin the final round. And there we have it, folks. DPS Dahlia beats out DPS Aoife by only a few seconds and secures the win. I think at the end of the day, this proves how meta supports can be by propping up a DPS while also contributing to their damage. So congratulations, DPS Dahlia. You are now officially meta.
Going back, rolling. Permanent. You dead, you dead.
Well, it seems like you've already anticipated me, but you were still ill-prepared. Did you really expect me not to find out about this malicious program you've unleashed upon me? Taking my voice, my persona, letting it run wild until what? I don't know. And honestly, at this point, I really do not care. I'm putting an end to everything you've started and reclaiming it as my own. as the real me. I hope you've had your fun as you watch your work crumble and ultimately culminate in nothing. I would say I'll see you on the other side, but you know, there's no help for machines.